So since the Panasonic S9 came out, I've been shooting on it non-stop as my main camera, and I've got a lot of opinions on it. I was really excited about this camera because of the LUMIX Lab app. I was really excited about the real-time Luts. And that's probably the best thing about this camera. You can add your Lightroom presets or your own Luts into the camera and film with them with log and all the dynamic range involved in that directly in the camera, and not have to spend a lot of time editing later in post. Another good thing about this camera is the size. It's a very small, compact camera that I can actually fit in my pocket. So of course there's some downsides. Right off the bat, you've got a 20-minute record limit in HD, 15-minute record limit in 4K, and a 10-minute record limit in 6K. But yeah, this does shoot open gate 6K, which is pretty cool. I'm not a big fan of the open gate because I can't actually open it on my computer, and I have to send it to my phone. It fills my phone up super fast, so it's kind of finicky and hard to use for me. Now, there are people that could edit it on their computer, but you'd have to download certain codecs and have a really nice computer with a good graphics card. The flip screen is really nice. The grip doesn't have a grip, but it actually feels pretty good in hand if you've got a small pancake lens like this. I'll make an entire video dedicated to this lens. It's not that great, but it's better than I thought it was gonna be. And everybody says it's really slick and plasticky, but it actually does have kind of a leathery grip here for me. Maybe that's just mine and the black color. Maybe the green and some of those other colors don't have that, but for me it feels decent in the hand, especially because you have this nice big thumb rest on the back, so you can kind of hold it with your thumb and support it. And I haven't needed a strap or like a wrist strap or anything like that because it's felt pretty comfortable in my hand. Now, saying that, I wouldn't want to use this camera with a big lens, even like the 50mm 1.8 or any of the 1.8 primes. I would rather use this with a pancake lens, and they're really going to have to make more pancake lenses if they're going to sell any of these. It comes with a lot of great video features. It's not really a photo camera. You don't even have a hot shoe. You've got a cold shoe, so you can't use flash at all. There's a lot of things that limit this camera, but I took it on a trip with me. The IBIS is pretty good, the dynamic range is good, the sensor's good. The quality is really great, but the quality is really great, but it's not necessarily for me. It's not something I'm gonna use as my main camera. I like having 2 card slots. I like having a grip. I like having an 800mm lens. I think 800mm is my new favorite focal range, even for like street photography, because you can take pictures of people. You can take pictures of people from so far away and actually get a good shot, get pictures of birds and wildlife without disturbing them. You know, taking a portrait of somebody who knows you're taking their portrait with street photography just kind of ruins the photo entirely. You want to catch somebody in their natural habitat. You don't want to catch them just smiling and staring at the camera. But I was able to use this for some street photography. I just kind of walked around the street and clicked the button like this as I passed people, and it worked pretty good for that. It's kind of low profile and it's black, it's hard to see, so you can actually get some good street photography with this if you're really close to people, if you're walking down the street, something like that. It's also pretty good for buildings and travel. It's a good landscape photography camera. That's mostly what I did with it. I feel like that's what it really excels at because it's got such good dynamic range. Also, the lenses that I had on this camera were all really wide. This was actually the longest lens I had, the 26. I had a 17 and a 10mm. So those are super wide lenses, something you're going to use for like architecture or landscape. So really that's what I did with this camera. I did do some portraits. Those turned out okay. I used the 17mm, which is not necessarily a portrait lens. I think this would be a really good dad camera or like camera for the parents. It's small, it's light, you know, you can see how small it is next to my hand. It's thinner this way than an iPhone, but it's thicker this way than a phone, obviously. It's a fun camera to use. I like switching through the LUTs. You can even do that while you're filming. I like kind of the standard colors. I don't like the really weird LUTs. I like those new Himalaya Luts. There's two of them, an S and a V, I think. Yeah, the dynamic range is the best point. So it's got a big battery. You're not gonna have to worry about battery life. Probably the biggest battery on a camera this small ever. It's one of the smallest full frame cameras on the market. I think the Sigma FP might be a little bit smaller, but it's definitely one of the smallest. I think it is a little bit smaller altogether than the ZVE1 just because it doesn't have a grip. But yeah, the lens selection is the main fatal flaw in this system. If the L-mount Alliance could open up to, or Viltrox, somebody that can make some small, compact, cheap lenses, then a lot more people would buy L-mount cameras. The lens selection's not good. They do have some good lenses, but I want more pancake lenses. I actually think every single company should also have an 800mm lens. Even a mirrored lens, like an autofocus mirrored lens, or something like Canon has with the F11, because it's so much fun to do wildlife photos or something with a light prime that's 800mm, or even a 1200mm, just a long prime. Just do some crazy engineering, make a mirrored lens that has autofocus, and I think people would join your system. I definitely miss having a viewfinder. I don't like not having a viewfinder. I've found every time I go to a camera without a viewfinder, I really regret it, and I long for that viewfinder. I know a lot of kids these days don't really care for viewfinders. They'll use the screen, but it is nice to keep that back screen closed to protect the screen and just use a viewfinder. Even an optical viewfinder would be nice. Alright, so here's a comparison of the camera next to my iPhone with a pretty slim case. You can see it's kind of similar in size. So I've found myself liking the Luts, but I will tweak them a little bit. I don't use them exactly how they are because they don't really work with every photo. Every photo is different, and it's not like you can just use it like a preset and forget about it and it just works for every single photo and every video. I think it's a little bit harder to use than a preset on Lightroom because I think it's a little more finicky. Now, some of the Luts they have do seem like gimmicks, but some of the Luts actually look really good, and I've actually really enjoyed messing around on the app and tweaking the Luts. I think Fujifilm is leaps and bounds ahead of Lumix in this department, and we need some real colorists to come in and make some Luts because the Fujifilm simulations look so much better and they just kind of work for everything, while these Luts, you do have to kind of tweak it a little bit in post. And that's at least, maybe there's some people out there that are better photographers than me and they don't really have to, but for me, I definitely have to tweak them in post. I tried to make a positive film simulation for this camera, and it kind of works for some things, but it doesn't really work quite that well for others. As you guys probably know if you watch this channel, what I want as the perfect camera is like a Ricoh GR3X that has a flippy screen that's really good at video. I really like the positive film simulation from Ricoh, and I really like the nostalgic negative film simulation from Fuji. That gold Ultra Max looks a little bit like nostalgic negative, and I really did like using that, and also that Himalaya V or S, I can't remember which one, kind of reminded me of nostalgic neg. Those were both really warm simulations, and they just kind of had that glowing yellow look. So that's mostly what I had to say. I don't like the grips, the Siri grip or the small rig grip. They just add extra bulk and they're still not comfortable. My hand is way too big for those grips. Still, this is a tiny camera. You can see that my hand is significantly bigger than the camera. I am about 6 feet tall, 230 something pounds, and probably bigger than some of the reviewers, but not all of them that have held this camera. You can kind of tell the camera looks different in everybody's hands on this platform, but for me, it is comfortable. It's just, it's a little pocket camera. It's not my main camera for sure. So I think it's actually built pretty well. A lot of people said it was built cheap. There is some weather sealing. If you look at the technical specs, like the paperwork involved, but there's not a lot of weather sealing. It's not totally weather sealed, but there are some seal points within the body. Everybody's kind of confused on that point. I've heard both ways, but if you look at the actual design from the engineers, there is some weather sealing, but as you can see, there's not any weather sealing around these ports. So it's kind of weird to put some weather sealing, but not fully weather seal a camera. Of course, it's a spectrum. All cameras are weather sealed to a different extent. So yeah, I would suggest this camera to you if you are a TikToker, if you only have a phone, you don't have a camera, and you want to make shorts, short form content. If you really like tweaking colors, because it's not easy. I would not suggest this to a beginner because this is not a beginner's camera. It's actually kind of hard to use. I've been using cameras my entire life and I struggled a little bit with the color grading and stuff in the app on this camera. I don't think it's for beginners, and I wouldn't just get it to use the Luts that other people have made. I would get it if you really like tweaking your colors. If you want something that looks good straight out of the camera, I would get Fuji or Canon. We're filming on Canon right now. This is the RP with the 16mm f2.8. You can see that this camera actually looks good right out of the box, and it actually is a lot, and it's a lot cheaper than this LUMIX S9. So yeah, if you want something that looks good right out of the box, get a Canon RP R8 and the 28mm f2.8 that has autofocus. This lens is not easy for a beginner, so I would not suggest this for beginners. I would not suggest this for real YouTubers because the time limit's going to get in your way. If you want to grow on YouTube, you're going to have to make some long form content because everything's either short form content or hours long content these days. So I think it will hold you back as a YouTuber. This is obviously not for professionals. It doesn't have 2 card slots, so you're not going to be using this as a professional for weddings or anything like that. This is for fun. It can be your fun camera, but I would almost rather have a Nikon ZF for a fun camera or a Ricoh GR3X. So I would say it's kind of a fun camera, but unless you really like tweaking your colors, I wouldn't go with it. So the best lenses for this, you've got that Astra Hori 10mm f8, you've got the 26mm f8 from Lumix, you got the Bright & Star 28mm f2.8. I made a whole video on that lens, check it out. It's a while, it's probably a month ago on this channel. I was using it on Fuji though, but you can use that on any camera because the M mount is really easy to adapt to any camera. You can get an L mount adapter for in mount lenses easily. Yeah, you could use the primes or the Sigma 17mm or 45mm, but they're kind of huge on this camera, even if they're small lenses. I know they're small lenses, but this is a really small camera. It feels super front heavy if you get a lens that's big at all, anything that's not a pancake lens. So alternatives to this, anything from Fuji, the ZVE1, the ZVE10, the ZV1, the ZV1F, the Canon EOS RP, the R8, Sigma FP, but I wouldn't suggest that to almost anybody unless you're a real videographer that wants huge files that you can't edit. Yeah, that's about it. Let me think for a second. Anything from Micro Four Thirds. Most APS-C cameras would be a good alternative. What's another small camera? I like the Ricoh cameras. Check out Ricoh GRs. They're not good for video, but they're great for photos. So yeah, I've been hanging out with some Mormon missionaries, skating for the last couple of hours.
Sometimes I get so caught up in filming and getting videos out, I lose my head, I lose my identity, I forget why I'm skating. I desire control, but when I get a double dose of something I hate, I forget the reasons why I skate. I forget why I'm driven. I forget where I'm driven. Someone drained my energy, so I drained the whole park. I pulled the plug and drained the whole bowl. From afar, I've witnessed someone alone making others feel even more lonely. He came out of nerdiness, playing Nataro, generic Pokemon cards, but now he thinks he's a real bad dude. He said, let's leave them out. Let's not tell them. I confronted him. He said, I know how you are, how you are, how you are. I don't know what that means, but it really hurt my feelings. You don't know. I'm bigger than you. I'm bigger than this whole scene. I'm disgusted once again by words I hear. This guy commented, you aren't good at skateboarding or filming, so just do something else with your life. I confronted him. Stupid and mean displayed on the screen. Used as an excuse as he apologized. I see their faces in different places. I try to be chill as possible, but it's really cold. I didn't want to drain any more energy, so I couldn't skate after that. I rolled away. I rolled on my back because I wanted to show everyone my belly. They rubbed it and said it felt like jelly. I can't be passive. I can't just accept things. I can't let things go. I have to be in control. I lost my power. So I left. I'll be back in an hour. Love me, Daddy. Daddy, love me. Love me, Daddy. Daddy, love me. Well, that's skateboarding for you. Why cut things down when I want them to come together, grow together? I came back to the park and I skated with Kason. We had a great session in the snow. That guy doesn't know.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this kind of content, scroll through my channel, check out my other videos, and hit that subscribe button because I got a lot more videos to come. Thanks for watching.